Jacob. Hello, how are you, ex-Muslim
Uh,
Jacob?
Hello there. Jacob's not my real name, by the way.
Yeah. I'll call you Jacob, or do you want me to call you
Yeah,
something else?
that's fine.
But
No,
let me correct
Jacob's
your
fine.
name 1 second. There you go. I think that is a lot more appropriate. There you go.
Okay. I don't
Okay.
think that's how that word is
Well,
spelled, but that's fine.
that's how they say it these days. So we're just like, you know, putting
You
it the
already
right way.
know where
All
I
right,
went
Jacob.
from.
So
Okay.
I know you're Arab. You look Arab. I do not know
Mhm.
exactly where you're from, but I know you're an Arab, and that's why I was asking if you're a Muslim or not. All right, Jacob. So can you now let me start by asking you a question? You say you're an ex-Muslim. I'll allow you to ask questions if you like. I don't know. You're coming with a question. You have questions in your mind.
Uh, I do have specific questions about everything, but you can you can decide where my questions go since this is your stream.
Yeah, no. First, I'll let you ask questions, but first, I want to ask you a foundational questions because
Go
that
ahead.
foundational question is based on what you claimed or what you said so far. You said that you're an ex-Muslim means you left Islam. So there should be a reason for why you left Islam. Now, I'm going to ask for one thing, one reason where you can pinpoint and say, look, here is where I left Islam. Could I say, oh, it's a million different things, as everyone usually tries to do to avoid pinpointing the reason where is the
Mhm.
obstacle? Where is that rock that was like, okay, if this is true, therefore I gotta leave Islam right now. I want you to pinpoint your finger and tell me, okay, here is the reason I left Islam. And that reason has to be rational and consistent. So I'm welcoming to hear what is that rational, consistent reason that made you leave the religion of Islam. Go ahead.
Hmm. That's a difficult question to answer, but I'll try my best. So a lack of proof is the short answer. A lack of proof, and a lot of inconsistencies, mistakes, whether scientific or what I find to be ethically, incorrect in my opinion. Which I understand the argument for these is that I'm not, I don't have the right to say that this is unethical or not, since it's God's word. But yeah, just a lack of proof and a lot of inconsistencies, which we could talk about in this
So
offline.
you went ahead and did exactly what I said you're about to do, which is you're
I,
going to
I,
say,
you know, I
yeah,
understand that it's a
I literally just said you're about to do this, and you just heard everything I said, and
okay.
you
Like, do you want me to point at a specific verse?
I said the one look, nobody just there is always a certain point where you say, okay, I cannot be this anymore, I cannot be a Muslim. Okay, I've come across this is a huge issue, it's the biggest misconception, this is a big problem for me, I cannot believe this religion is true if this is true. Now you don't have that, that's fine, you just say I don't have that, you don't need to give me to please me. You can
I
just
just
admit and say, like, so far there isn't one single consistent logical reason that I can present you to tell you why Islam is false, for example, where I left Islam. There isn't. There are many reasons, many arguments, many you can say these things, but you can agree and admit that there isn't one argument that you can pinpoint and say, oh, this is the reason why Islam is false or why I left Islam. Do we agree on that?
what I want to say is it's never really one thing though, right? Like, you see one thing that bothers you, and like, okay, maybe this has an answer, but then you see another, and then another, and then another, and then the shak it piles up until it comes
No,
to a certain
I
breaking point.
disagree. Yeah, I think it has to be something really major for someone to basically change their position. Maybe they come across
Well,
a problem here, small problem here, small problem here, but then they will come across this point in their life, the turning point that people call. You come across something, there's something that happened. Okay, this is a huge issue, and then I left. But anyways, now since we've established that you don't have one single thing, then I'll
mhm.
allow you then to ask uh, your questions. I'll let you ask your questions, and then I'll come to you with questions, maybe counter questions in the meantime, etc. But for now, what is that question that you have for me? Go ahead.
Once
What are you
again,
now,
not
by the way? What are you now, by the way?
uh, like what I
An
believe.
atheist? Yeah, an
I
atheist, or
guess agnostic.
okay, okay, an unbeliever, basically. All right, go ahead.
More or less, yeah.
Yes,
So
it's not
it's
one
not a
thing. Yes, but
specific
what did
question
you
that's
have in
about.
mind when you wanted to come? Yes.
For example, I could say scientific inaccuracies. May I give examples?
You can start with one example, not examples. Right, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, an example.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes,
I'm saying it's your theme. Like, you could decide what we want to talk about, whether
Sure.
it's the ethical part or the scientific part, or
Sure.
sure.
Okay, first, let me refute all the scientific arguments you're about to bring.
Mm-hmm.
What is science?
العلم التجريبي, science is.
To say in Arabic does not mean you define that, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not defining.
Yeah.
It's just that
Yes.
it's easier for me to speak in Arabic. I understand that it is not one fixed thing, and that science could be wrong. Science constantly advances. Science changes. It's not one specific fixed thing. Again.
So what is science?
I can't give you a definition. You could give you a definition.
Okay, so let's agree first. You do not know the definition of science, but you want to proceed and present scientific errors or mistakes in the Quran. I'll say, like, the beginning of any field is to know at least the definition of what that field is or what that thing is, in order for me to even start to embark on a journey of speaking about it, at least. Now, to go to the extent of where you want to speak scientifically and tell us the scientific mistakes in the Quran and how this is scientifically right and how this is scientifically wrong, when the foundation of what science is not familiar to you, I think that is an issue. I would humbly say that. Now, the definition of the scientific method is to study the physical world, the material world, that which you can put under a microscope. You do experimentation, then you do repeatability, and you do falsification. That is the definition of the scientific method. You have a specific experiment, you repeat the experiment, and then we see whether that experiment is falsified or is it a valid theory for the time being based on the limited data that we have and the research that we have. That is the definition of science. Now, something like this, which is by definition limited, meaning it does not bring you to absolute proof, absolute truth, absolute reality, it doesn't lead you to that. All it leads you to is the best conclusion at the time based on the data that we have. That's why you had, like, for example, Thomas Kuhn writing the very famous book called Paradigm Shift, where he talks about the huge changes in science, the things that people believe to be, everything, and then it changes, like Newtonian physics, Einsteinian physics, the static state theory, and the Big Bang theory. These were things that people believed were absolute. When you're learning it in your book in the 1900s, you thought this was the universe. You thought this was reality. You thought this was the truth. But these major shifts and paradigms happens in science because science is an experimental thing that changes and adapts based on the new set of data information that you possess as a human being. And it is limited due to the fact that you are limited as a human being. So it's a limited tool. Now, from an Islamic perspective, the Quran is an absolute thing. It's an absolute truth. It's an absolute speech of God. Whatever you're going to present that is scientific, when you say scientific, you mean the information that we have today scientifically. That's what you mean by scientific. Today, we believe X, Y, and Z. Now, whatever that is, what we believe today that you can present cannot be, put against something which is absolutely true, because they don't have the same epistemological value, knowledge value, essentially. You don't have the same
something here.
Knowledge. You will come after I just finished this sentence.
Go ahead.
So we have the Quran, which is absolutely true, absolute reality. So whatever the Quran says is absolutely true. It does not change. It cannot change. Science, subject to change, limited, based on a limited method. We cannot use something limited to say that something absolute is incorrect. And a very simple example for that, before I end. For instance, you had the sun, and the sun was static, did not have an orbit. That was a belief that we held 50 years ago. It was being taught in universities. It's being taught in books, and everyone believed that was the case. The Quran said that the sun has an orbit, it's moving. And that was wrong that time. So you, Jacob, if I were to bring you, 50 years ago, and we had this conversation, you say, oh, I have a scientific error. Look, the Quran is saying the sun is moving. That's what you would be saying. But you will be incorrect because our belief that time was incorrect. And what the Quran was saying was accurate and was correct. So therefore, I'm saying whatever you're going to present scientifically based on that is flawed. And it's not an argument that can be used against Islam. Now, what did you want to say?
What I was going to say is, you said that, Islam or the Quran or what, is the absolute truth. The thing is, I did not find, I did not have enough confirmation that it is the absolute truth, and therefore I could not, what's the word? I could not compromise my, what I know, like simple facts. Like I'm not saying, when I say scientific errors, for the most part, I'm not talking about, the geocentric views, the non-geocentric views of, like when people talk about that in the Quran, it shows that it's written as if, it's written upon a geocentric belief. When people say that, whether it's true or not, I'm not saying it's true, whether it's not true. I'm talking about like more basic things, but that's not the issue here. You're saying that the Quran is,
No,
the
it's not. I
absolute truth.
think no, that is fair enough what you're saying, but that's a different argument. Now we need to first establish whether it is or not, and then have a consideration, of whether we want to look at what science says today or doesn't say today. So that's the more foundational reason and argument for me to say.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So if the Quran is true, that whole lesson or arguments that you have is not important anymore. It's not necessary. You can throw it in the bin if the Quran is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there is proof that the Quran is true, no matter what, then my questions don't matter. Then it could be just simply that, oh no, science is wrong in this part, and since the Quran is true.
Yeah, and probably anyways, these arguments you have are wrong. They are either misrepresenting the Quran or Hadith, or they're misrepresenting science. And that we've established that many times on the channel. For instance, give one quick example. What do you have in mind? And anyways, we don't need to respond to it, but we want to see an example of what you would say. You said very basic things.
يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right. So here he presents Surah Tariq, where Allah Azza wa Jal says, فلينظر الإنسان مما خلق من ماء دافق يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب. Now my question to you is, now you're Egyptian, I'm assuming, but let me ask you this question as someone who speaks Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, most of the Arabs, they don't properly speak Arabic. But let me ask you, do you know what a dhamir is?
Dhamir.
Yes.
A consciousness?
No. All right, that's
dhamir. You mean dhamir as in
yes, from a
language, like dhamir
yes.
or dhamir.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what is a dhamir, for instance?
Similar to a pronoun, like what a certain word
يخرج. Then after it, you would have something there missing. What is it?
The dhamir يخرج هو أو يخرج هي.
Exactly. Excellent. So that which comes out there, now we need to identify what is that. But first, before I do any of that right now, before I will respond to the scientific thing, and then we'll move to whether Islam is true or not. And that's why I was telling you, I don't need to deal with these scientific things that you have, because they're mostly misrepresentation that you have. Misunderstandings of science or of what the Quran says. Now, my question to you is this. Where is the scientific error? Let's start with that. You make your argument, and then I'll show you why your argument is problematic. Go ahead.
First of all, I'm not going by my interpretations. I've read the interpretations of Ibn Kathir and Qurtubi, and
what is the argument?
The argument is, the Quran is saying that, or what I assume the Quran is saying is semen comes or is formed or starts forming, or that semen is generally related to the backbone or to the chest, or whichever word صلب والترائب refers to. I know there's a lot of arguments on whether it's for the lady the tara'ib is between the chest or whatever. This area in general, the abdomen part, which we know it's not, or which
it doesn't say abdomen part there. It says min bayni. What does min bayni means?
I thought one of the tafasir was the tara'ib.
No, what does min bayni? Min bayni. What does it mean?
Between?
Yes. So it's saying in between something. It's not saying in the tara'ib or you said in the abdominal area.
I meant like.
Yes. All right. So you're first, you said semen. And then you said abdominal area. Okay. So this argument itself is incorrect anyways. So now let's highlight why it's incorrect. First, what does the word for
before we do, I'm sorry. Before we do.
Yes.
Can we agree that, the tafasir are saying this?
No. The tafsir are not saying what you're saying. And whether the tafsir say what you're saying or not, we need to look at the text. What is the text saying? Okay? And the tafsir, as I said, are not saying the way you present. Now, first, let's start with, you said semen or sperm, you're referring to that. Where does the Quran, what's the word that the Quran uses for semen and sperm? There is a specific word. Do you know what that word is?
Semen, mani.
For sperm, for the sperm.
Mani or mani, yeah.
When it refers to the sperm or the semen, that fluid the human being is created from, specifically the semen or the sperm, Allah uses the word nutfa.
Nutfa also, yeah.
Nutfa specifically. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, and He says in many places about the nutfa, that this is where the human being is created from, right? So does Allah use the word nutfa in Surah Al-Tariq?
I don't think so.
Okay, why is the word used now? So first, you made an argument based on semen and sperm. But the verse in the Quran is not saying nutfa. So what is it saying?
Ma'in mahin.
No. Ma'in dafiq.
يخرج
Ma'in dafiq.
دافق يخرج. Yeah, ma'in dafiq. I'm sorry, ma'in dafiq.
Okay,
yeah.
so what does ma'in dafiq mean?
I assumed it referred to the sperm, to the semen also. Or the semen.
I'm not interested in assumptions, with all the respect. I'm just saying, what does it mean if we were to literally translate it?
Flowing water, I guess.
Gushing fluid.
Gushing, okay.
So dafiq is something which is gushing, gushes out. And water or ma there is going to be fluid. So we have a gushing fluid, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal says here, there is a gushing fluid. So that gushing fluid now comes out, yakhruju. That gushing fluid comes out. So the initiating process of that thing comes out from where? Between a sulb and a taraib. What is the meaning between of the words sulb and taraib?
What I know is that it's not, people, mufassirin, mukhtalifin.
What is the general view of the soul? What the meaning
backbone.
of the word soul? Backbone and taraib?
The area between the chest, I think.
The ribs specifically. Allah, the ribs. So, okay, we have now backbone and we have ribs. Now, do you know that scientifically, between the backbone and the ribs, there's something called the seminal vesicles? Do you know what the seminal vesicles are?
Yeah.
Why is the seminal vesicle?
I do not. It's part of the accessory glands that create the semen.
All right. So this seminal vesicle is located, by definition, between the ribs and the backbone. And the seminal vesicles is where you have the initial fluid that carries the semen and that carries the sperm that the human being then uses to, multiply and have intercourse and all of that. Now, my question to you is this. Is not that this is a scientific mistake. My question to you is, when the Quran now defines that there is now a fluid, a gushing fluid, as we know today, comes from these seminal vesicles that are located scientifically between the backbones and the ribs. Now, my question is, how would Prophet Muhammad, now what you're trying to use as a doubt is in reality and evidence.
You're going to spin it on me. How did he know?
Yeah, exactly. How would he possibly know that piece of information? Why wouldn't he use the word nutfa? Why wouldn't he use any other different location other than this specific location?
Mm-hmm.
Now, so that shows... Go ahead.
I was going to ask, the seminal vesicles, I did not think that they were between the ribs and the backbone.
They are. In fact, you can just Google right now and put a picture and type seminal vesicles. I thought
they were at the prostate.
And have a look. Where exactly is it's located? You type it yourself, because I don't want to show these body parts.
I'm
pictures of
like it is,
because they're all explicit pictures.
It is.
Is it between the backbone? No. Is it between the backbone and the ribs or not? By definition, you can look. You'll see in the picture. You have the picture of the backbone, and you have a picture of the human being. Is it in between the two?
Picture of. Okay, this is the one, I think.
Come on, like this. Is it in between the two or not?
It's. I mean, it's at
the backbone ends here. You have the seminal vesicles here, and then you have the ribs here, and you have in between the backbone and the ribs. You have something called the seminal vesicles, in which that gushing fluid gushes out.
Like if these are the ribs, the seminal vesicles are below it at the pelvis.
Is it in between or not?
Like,
Like,
almost
let me ask you. Let me show you how ridiculous what you're just saying is. First, the ribs ends here, and then you have the seminal vesicle, and then you have the ribs, and it's exactly in between the two. Now you're trying to make a very ridiculous argument by stating, oh, the ribs is a little bit on the top. That's irrelevant. Is it in between the two? Let me ask you a simple question. Is your head between your shoulders? Can I say that you have a head between your shoulders? Your head is between your shoulders.
Linguistically, yeah.
Okay. So when you come with a very ridiculous things trying to say, oh, it's a little bit up, it's a little bit down, that's irrelevant. In reality, when Allah uses the term that the seminal vesicles are in between the backbones and the ribs, and it is here, then by definition, it is in between the backbones and the ribs. Do you agree on that?
If I do agree with this, then almost everything in your body you could say is between the ribs and the backbone, though.
Not everything in your body you can say is between the
ribs.
There are things which are lower, and there are things
that are outside.
Your eyes and nose and ears are not between your backbones and the ribs.
You could say that they are if
you can't.
Straight.
You can't, because the backbones and the ribs are essentially you can say the barrier of that which is in between here, this area. So when we say something is here specifically between the backbone and the ribs, by definition, it is between the backbone and. So first, let's not. This is the thing. There's a level of being ridiculous you can get to when you don't want to accept something which is absolutely clear. By definition of every language, it is in between the backbone and the ribs. But not only that, we can also use a different argument. We can say that يخرج here is not referring to the gushing fluid at all. And this is where I was asking you about the damir. So look, whichever way you want to go about this, you're not going to be able to find an argument against Islam. Now, how can we say that this is not even referring to the fluid? Because يخرج, as I said to you, is referring to a specific damir. And that damir in the Arabic language and in the Quran, it can refer to the closest, the most recent mentioned damir, or that which was mentioned before. Now, what was mentioned before? Allah, if you go back to the context, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ مِمَّا خُلِقَ. Let the human being observe from what he was created. Then Allah says, خُلِقَ مِن مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ. So Allah mentions the damir first, is the human being, and then mentions another damir, which is the gushing fluid. So there are two nouns here that are mentioned. And comes out here can refer to the human being and can refer to the gushing fluid. And the human being does come out of this area between the backbone and the ribs. This is where the human being comes out from, literally. And this is not my interpretation, by the way. You can go to the English translations of the Quran. For instance, Abdul Halim translation. He would translate يخرج here referring to the human being. He says he comes out and then he would put human being. Because in Arabic language, comes out there, the damir can either refer to the closest damir, the closest now mentioned, or the one that was mentioned before. So either way you wanna spend this or go about. Even if you want to try and say, oh, this is not in between the backbone and ribs, which is clearly is the seminal vesicles are, you got no argument against Islam.
Is it my turn now?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
So what you're doing right now is part of my problem with Islam, where any question that I can ask scientifically does have an answer, in other this. I'm not the first person who discovered this. This has been asked to a lot of Muslims, and there's always an answer. What I'm really not trying to be hypocritical or anything, but I really think you're stretching it. That's what I think. And I'm sorry, by the way, for pausing. This is my first ever interview with anyone of the sort. I'm sorry for disrupting.
I'm waiting for the argument.
Yeah. I'm saying that there'll always be an answer. You can always, stretch the meaning of words.
So let me get this straight. This is your argument. Your argument against me giving you an answer is that you're always going to give me an answer, brother. So because you're always going to give me an answer, and Muslims are always going to find an answer. Okay, when you claim I stretched something, now go ahead, tell me which part in what I said was a stretch. Go ahead. Which part did I say that it was not? Which part in what I said was not accurate?
The part between it being from the ribs to the backbone. I'm not saying it's inaccurate. I'm saying that, yeah, technically you could say that the seminal vesicles is in that area, but that's what I mean by stretching the definition. It's not at the same level of the ribs. Is
it linguistically correct to say the seminal vesicles are between the backbone and the ribs? Is this a false statement or a correct statement?
I'm saying I'm not saying you're lying. I'm saying it's a stretch.
I'm not saying you're saying I'm lying. I asked a very specific question.
No. Would I say that? I guess linguistically, yeah, you could say that it is between the ribs and the backbone.
No. I guess we're talking about actual facts.
I'm not a linguistic, scientist. I could be.
I give you an example for that reason. Now, I told you your head between. I give you an example for a reason, because this is how language is. So you just admitted yourself that linguistically there's nothing wrong with that statement, and if that statement is correct linguistically, it's also correct scientifically. We know that the seminal vesicles is where the gushing fluid comes out, which carries the semen or the sperm, which then the human being is created from. So you just admitted to yourself that there is no stretch here. Number two, didn't I give you an alternative explanation or an argument as well to understand the verse? That even if you didn't want to use the idea of the seminal vesicles, it's also valid Islamically from an Arabic language and from a rational perspective. Did I do that or not?
Yeah, you did. No, I'm not saying that this is, I could be wrong about the sperm thing. The entire verse could be correct. I'm not saying that this is like, this has been disproven, and my claims are, completely shattered. This could be true. What you're saying.
No. I'm not asking about could be, would be. I'm asking about realities. In reality, do the two arguments that I've presented refute that there is a problem scientifically in this verse here in any way, shape, or form?
It is at the very least not specific. Like I think it could have been more specific than that. At the very least.
Okay. Thank you for thank you for presenting the issue with the people who come and claim they're ex-Muslims. This is the issue that you have. The issue you have is not irrationality. It's not consistent logical reasoning or any of that. Because when you're given responses and answers to the questions that you have, you don't accept them. Even though they're outwardly clear, rational, 100% accurate, there's no issues. The statement you admitted yourself is 100% accurate. We said the human being, which would be completely accurate as well. If we were to take the interpretation that yakhruju there, al-damir is about the human being, it's not about the sperm. Both of them refute your argument about the sperm, and because it was not saying sperm anyways, refutes the argument that you're making, that there is a scientific issue. If anything, it mentions something scientifically that you need to explain. How is it mentioning that something is scientific?
Yeah, I'm saying I'm agreeing with you. I'm not agreeing. I'm not saying that this is a scientific error. Now, this could be very well scientifically true.
It's not could be. It is scientifically true that there's something called.
Okay, for the sake of the argument, I'm saying.
No, not for the sake of the argument. This is what I'm saying. This is my problem. You're rejecting facts, realities. It's a fact that the seminal vesicles produces a fluid that carries the semen and the sperm. That's a fact. It's a fact that they are in between the backbone and the ribs. This is a fact. None of this is, for the sake of the argument, you're accepting it.
Okay, I say I accept this. I accept that the seminal vesicles is between the ribs and the backbone. This is, first of all, it's not my only problem. And second, I still think...
No problem. I never said it was your only problem. I made a claim when I talked to you. The claim I made is that these arguments that you claim are scientific issues in the Quran are in reality your misunderstanding, your misrepresentation of both science and what the Quran says. And I made you give an example for only one specific reason, to demonstrate that this is the case. Because I didn't choose the example, you did. You could have brought anything.
No, yeah.
You could have brought from a million different examples. You could have brought anything. But I know whichever example you're going to present, I was going to demonstrate and show you and the people watching, in reality, there's no scientific error or mistakes. There's a mistake in your understanding or in the people's understanding who claim that there's a scientific mistake in the Quran. The mistake is in their understanding of science and their understanding of the Arabic language and the Quran. Now, let's move on to like what we said, so we can complete and finish this discussion with it. Islam being true or not being true, because we said that is the foundation now, and everything else now is irrelevant. You keep bringing me examples. We can spend time on each example, 30 minutes on each example.
No. I don't think
irrelevant.
this would be very helpful.
Yeah. So what is relevant or not relevant is whether the Quran is from God or is not from God. Now, my question to you is this: what is the compelling evidence? What is the argument that you accept? What type of evidences, epistemologically, that you use? You know, epistemology is a study of knowledge, basically. You say this is proof 100% for me that Islam is true. What would be something convincing for you right now that Islam is true or false? It's true. Let's just say true. What is compelling evidence that Islam is true for you? What is the criteria for you? That if you see something, you say, okay, that is evidence, I accept now Islam is the truth. What is the criteria?
What is a criteria? I guess I don't have an answer for that. I'm not saying that there's no sort of proof that could convince me. I'm saying I guess I never thought about it. I guess, you know, what convinces you that Islam is the truth? Can I ask you this question?
No, you can't. Because I asked you a question, then you returned my question to me. Like, it makes no sense, right?
I know. I'm telling you that yes. I don't know what could, you know, maybe.
But do you know why I'm asking you this question?
I think I do, yeah.
Tell me why. Because it's a very important question. Why do you think I'm asking you this question?
I think a lot of atheists of the sort, and you know, a lot of atheists and agnostics or whatever, that no sort of proof does convince them, that even if you bring up prophecies or, you know, scientific miracles, really accurate ones or whatever.
So the reason I'm asking you for your credit, thank you for, I appreciate you and I appreciate your honesty there. So the reason I'm asking you to give me a criteria is because what people in your position always do, when you provide them an answer, oh, that's not enough, that's not sufficient. Oh, but there it could be this, it could be this, it could be that. So we say, okay, I'm not gonna spend time presenting you something until you tell me what is reasonable first. What is our evidences that you can say, okay, this is evidences why Islam is the truth. Now, you asked me, you ended up doing, because you don't have a criteria. As you said, you didn't even think. Yeah, I know. You didn't even think about it. And that is the issue. In order for me, if I want to determine whether something is from God or not from God, I need to first have a criteria for what it will be convincing for me, because I don't know you. You know yourself. You know what is convincing for you. You know what's not convincing. And go to a different person, give him an evidence. He's already believing. I come to you, say, oh, no, that doesn't make sense. People are different. So that's why I asked you specifically, what is the argument that is going to convince you? Now, what I'm going to say is this, very simple. You ask me, what is the proof I have? It's not, that Islam is the truth, or why I believe Islam, or I know Islam is the truth. And I already have like a video on my channel, like a 1-hour lecture where I talk about that. Again, I'm going to say it very simply, very quickly. There are different types of evidences. There are different types of evidences, right? Why Islam is the truth. And in each type, there's individual examples. For instance, you mentioned something, a type, when you were speaking, which is prophecies. Prophecies of the future. That's one example. We know that human beings do not know absolute future. They do not know what is going to happen. They do not know that which is to come. We're bound by the time-space continuum that we live in the universe. We do not know everything that is going to come about or happen. So if the Prophet ﷺ were to make tens of prophecies, they're all accurate, they're all correct, none of them are false, none of them are inaccurate. You have these examples in which I say these are the examples now. In that type of evidence is prophecies of the future. And then you have multiple different examples. Another type is the knowledge of the natural world. I don't use the term scientific for them, but Allah speaking about describing the natural world, because He's describing them objectively the way they are. They cannot change. They are the way Allah said they will be. So you have the natural world, Allah describing the natural world, describing expansion of the universe, describing embryology, describing many different things that the Quran talks about. You have another example, history, things which the Prophet ﷺ did not know. Another type, things which the Prophet ﷺ did not know, things which it did not exist in the Torah or the Gospel or the previous scriptures. It was not information known in the civilizations in his time. For example, when the Quran talks about the ancient Egyptian beliefs, like Pharaoh claiming to be God, or ancient Mesopotamia, and we did not read hieroglyphics until we discovered the Rosetta Stone in 1799 or 1899, which is like 200-300 years ago. Couldn't even read hieroglyphics. So we couldn't read what the Egyptians believe. Even if you went to Egypt and you tried to study the pyramids, you'll not be able to understand. Another example, the life of the Prophet ﷺ himself. What would be the reasons, the motives for him to lie? If he wasn't saying the truth, you have to give me other explanations. Was he lying? Was he delusional? And the Prophet is far from any of these accusations. But we're saying you're going to have an alternative explanation. Why was he doing what was he doing? You'll have to provide us with a rational explanation. And lastly, for example, at least many, many things. The Quran for itself as an argument, its language. It's i'jaz. It's not being able to imitate it. No one is able to imitate or bring anything like it. Another example is the laws of the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ brings in the Quran and Hadith, the social laws, how to run the community, society, how to deal with finances, the punitive laws, all of these things that cannot come from that desert Bedouin Arabian, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Now, there's many, many other things. These are just the types. And when these types, there's many examples. So you're welcome to watch the video that I made to see specific examples. Now, all of these things prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ could not have been anything other than a prophet of God. Now, what I'm going to do is to ask you one question. If the Prophet ﷺ was not a true prophet and messenger of God, and we can end on this question, provide me an alternative rational explanation of how was he able to produce this information that I mentioned.
Well, an example could be like for some of the things that he learned was that he was a trader for a big time a big time of his life. He could have known it from other people. But okay. I can give you an example. Exactly.
Okay, so this is very illogical. Okay, so this very illogical answer does not work for many reasons. First, does not respond to all of the claims, because we said the claims of Prophet ﷺ made, even if he was a trader, he's not going to meet a scientist, a geologist, a biologist, a hydrologist, cosmologist. He's not going to be a historian. He's not going to meet people who spoke the Greek and language. He's not going to meet the people who spoke and meet everyone and collect all the accurate information. If it was hearsay and he was taken from the people and he was trading, the book would be full of problems, would be full of issues. It would be full of the beliefs that the Greeks had, for example, or be full of the beliefs that the Persians had, or the beliefs that the Byzantines had at the time, because he was taking information from them. But the Quran reflects anything opposite to that. It reflects belief which are opposite to what these people used to believe. So that cannot help you. It will not also answer the point of the future. Being a trader, you're not going to meet, some guy coming with a time machine from the future to tell you what was happening that time. So he's not going to respond to the idea of prophecies. So can you present me with a rational explanation, an alternative, something that actually works, that can make us believe and explain? And meeting a trader is not going to help you with producing an Arabic text that is now has its own genre in the Arabic language, the most eloquent speech in the whole Arabic language that cannot be imitated. That is not going to help you as well. So can you present me with a rational explanation? If Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was not truly a messenger of God, give me an alternative explanation. How did he produce or do these things?
I guess no, I really don't have an answer for that.
All right. So if the Prophet ﷺ could not have done any of these things except if he was a messenger of God, then he is? Waiting for you to say.
Would that be proof that he is really the messenger of God? Okay.
So it's an objective fact, an objective reality, that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is a messenger of Allah. It's a fact. It's a reality, because you can never produce an alternative explanation that he would have been able to do the things that he did. And by the way, one or two of these things by themselves are enough of evidence to show that he is a messenger of God. But when you put them all together, it becomes an impossibility that he wasn't truly a messenger of God, because he didn't claim this is my information. He claimed that this is from the Creator. So now my question to you now, if he could not have been anything other than a messenger of God, then why are you not back to being a Muslim?
First of all, I just want to say that my agnosticism isn't that strong. I just started like a few months ago researching this. I don't have all the info, which is why I do. If you notice, I'm not really that educated in it. But yeah, I just haven't researched enough. Is my point.
Okay, so what I've done right now is what I can do, which is to demonstrate the rationality behind first the claims that you have were not true, and that they were all now triumphed by the idea of presenting that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was a messenger of God. Now, all of these scientific things that you brought, even though I would easily respond to each of them and give you a response why you're saying is incorrect anyways, from a scientific and from a linguistic point of view. But that is just spending time for no reason. We shatter the basis, the foundation, and then this is how we save our time. All right, I'll let you go. Anyways,
thank you for this, by the way.
Yeah, that's fine, no problem. Just consider what I said. I know if the Prophet ﷺ was a true messenger of God and you died in the state that you are in right now, there's only one place that you're going to go. And you know that very well. Because if you claim you grew up, we have no proof that you actually grew up in a Muslim community or society. We don't know. I could ask you questions and then you end up being a Coptic Christian or something else. We never know. Anyone can claim anything on the internet. But that's irrelevant. The truth is, if someone dies on that, Allah clearly says in the Quran that whoever turns away from his religion, خلاص, his deeds is done. And no, this is in the hadith. Their deeds are gone in this life and the hereafter, and they will be in the hellfire. So I'll let you ponder and reflect on what we said today, and yeah, hopefully, inshallah, you will realize that there's no such thing of what you are saying, and that Islam is the truth for you to follow. All right, Jacob, again, call you that. Bye bye. I'll let you go now. See you.